Hey guys, Emily here. We are doing things a little bit different today. We're going to be doing a live stream. We're going to be live streaming today. So I'm going to introduce you guys to my friend Billy. He does not live in Texas, which is why we're doing the interview this way. So I'm going to go ahead and send him the link and he'll be on. So everybody that's watching, this is my friend Billy. Billy is someone that when I first got injured, my mom heard about your story and she told me about you. Billy and I actually just met for the first time this past summer at the Abilities Expo in Houston. And when we met, I had just talked about starting a podcast, but I had actually not started it yet. And we had talked about having you on here. So I just really appreciate you being here today.
Well, yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Billy, I'd love to know, and if you could share with our viewers a little bit about yourself and just your story, just a brief before we get started.
Yeah, sure. Well, I use a wheelchair. I broke my neck when I was a teenager, and when that happened, my life really changed. I was 18 years old at the time. I was a freshman in college, and I was, I was. It was one of those deals where I was kind of breaking away from the family and finally off on my own to being this fiercely independent kid ready to take the world on, um, take the world by the horns and really get after it. But I ended up falling out of the 3-story window and it broke my neck and my lower back and caused a spinal cord injury in both locations. So I went from someone that was very independent to someone that was all of a sudden fully dependent. And it really messed with my mind. But I was able to kind of get past that and get back on the right track. And, it was a long journey, but, it's been a successful one.
Yeah, it is a long journey, but you have had so much success, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I would love to know more about how you got started with Billy Footwear and what inspired you to do this, to create this.
Yeah, so it wasn't a fully baked plan. I mean, I can talk about the struggle. I remember just being in rehab, and I was in the hospital for 5.5 months, basically trying to put my life back together, both physically and mentally. And during that process, dressing is one of the things you have to try to tackle.
Yeah.
And I just remember the occupational therapist coming in, and they'd have different ways of putting loops on zipper pulls, and because I just don't have very good hand dexterity anymore. My function level is considered C6, where I have my wrist where I can go back, but not like the signal doesn't go to my fingers to be able to open up the hand. So essentially, like, it was a matter of putting loops on everything so I can hook something with my thumb to close it, or like big buttons or something like that. So when it came to shoes, like doing laces, I mean, just forget about it. And it was also challenging for me to actually shove my foot into a shoe, just because it's, I don't know, like having like your foot like the very end of your leg, like kind of this limp noodle, and trying to get it, I don't know, like try to get it positioned into a shoe. It was just very, very difficult. So that was one piece of my like independence I was never able to take back. There was someone always that had to put my shoes on for me. And that always kind of bugged me, I suppose, but there wasn't really any solution out there. And it wasn't until like way later down the road. I mean, I broke my neck in '96, and then I was invited to a Christmas party from a dear friend in December of 2011. And when we were catching up, he was telling me about how he like really intentionally went out and learned how to make shoes. And it was something I never knew about. His name's Darren. And anyway, he was catching me up on this, and he just got me really excited. I communicated with Darren. I'm like, you know what, since being in a chair, like putting on shoes, that's the one piece of the puzzle I haven't sorted out.
Yeah.
And what he was describing to me prompted me to tell him an idea that I had. And it was essentially just a new way to put shoes on. And it was a matter of putting a zipper in a shoe where it went on the outside and around the toe, where the whole upper could fold over. And instead of having you shove your foot into a shoe, you're actually placing your foot into a shoe. And I
So much
thought that would be
easier.
something that would be able to help me out. And he made a prototype and it worked.
Yeah. So much easier. It's something that, a lot of people just don't have to think about, putting on your shoes. But when you do have a spinal cord injury and the feet aren't working the way that they used to, it's like, I don't know. I think it's so awesome that you created this. It's genius and it's practical for people, with disabilities that struggle to do that. Um, can you tell me a little bit about like how you inquired your first customers? Like how did you get it all up and running?
Well, it didn't happen overnight, that's for sure. It was a long burn. I mean, when Darren made that prototype for me, this was like April of or May of 2015. And the way we have initially approached the market was we did a crowdfunding campaign. So it was called Kickstarter. And Kickstarter is still in existence right now. I'd highly recommend it. It worked really well for us. So I would say our first kind of customer that came that bought our shoes was through that initial Kickstarter campaign. So it might have been someone from friends or family or whatever. Because I don't know if you guys know how Kickstarter works, but it's
Yeah.
you basically set a campaign and you set a goal, and if you achieve that goal, you raise enough money, then it's considered a successful campaign. So that I would say through that Kickstarter campaign was like where our first like actual sale came from.
Mhm.
But actually from that, I guess the next would be like your customer that you don't know, someone that's outside your network. And the way we approached that was we created a website and then just kind of put it up there and then sent it out there through social media, created our own Facebook page, own Instagram page, and just threw it out there to the universe. And then somebody bought, and it was the craziest day because I still remember the gal's name. Her name is Ashley Walsh, and I don't know. It was just the most amazing moment in time how someone found the brand and they purchased it, and it was so special for us that we actually drove to her house and like hand delivered it. It was just such an amazing little moment in time, and it's crazy how like that one customer. Now, I mean, that was through our website. Now that was order number one, and now we're at 375,000 orders like through our website. It's just crazy.
That was such a pivotal moment for you, you know, being able to sell the first pair of shoes. It's like a ripple effect. That's awesome. And I can imagine it all. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in the beginning?
Well, I mean, similar to about acquiring that first customer, it was just essentially getting the word out. That was one of the really big challenges. And what we found was word of mouth is a powerful thing. So every time someone new was introduced to the brand, we would do everything we could to help that person encourage others to raise awareness of the brand. Not necessarily have them buy the brand, but just get the word out. So one of the things, the way we grew our audience was doing a ton of giveaways. We did a giveaway every single week through our Instagram channel. We gave a pair of shoes away every Friday and just had the campaign run Monday through Thursday. And the requirement was you had to like the post, tag two of your friends,
Mm,
and then at the end of the week, we would just give something away because we had product, but we just didn't have the money to be able to pay for advertising.
yeah.
So one of the big challenges initially was simply just get the word out. And by doing giveaways like that, it definitely compounded onto itself.
Hmm.
But I mean, there were just so many different challenges we were facing. I mean, that was one of them. The other one was trying to secure good manufacturing, like be able to find a factory that could actually produce the product. The first go, oh my gosh, like the first factory we got connected with, they talked a big game, but when it came to delivery, they just couldn't produce. The product that we got was 80% of it was bad. We bought 4,200 pairs of shoes, and 80% of them were in a state that we couldn't sell. So that was a huge, like, catastrophic fail for us at the very beginning that really put the business in jeopardy. Um, and we were basically set at a crossroads, going like, you know what, are we gonna let this hold us down and just like throw in the towel and say like, okay, that was fun for a while, or are we gonna double down again and try to go out and get better manufacturing, better contacts to be able to get into like stores? And we chose the latter. And that epic fail at the beginning, that was both just a real gut blow for, motivation, but also a financial blow. by,
Absolutely.
du- by doubling down, we got connected with the right people, and that product eventually allowed us to get into Nordstrom and Zappos. So that's really when it set the platform for a much, much bigger play.
You know, the whole liking and sharing that you mentioned, that's a great marketing strategy. But when this blow happened, I can imagine that it was very mentally like, I'm sure you were distraught. How do you feel like you overcame that? Because I know that was probably a lot.
It was a lot. It was a lot for sure, because we knew we had something that was different than the rest of the market, and we knew we had a strategy we felt that was going to work. Uh, and then when it didn't execute, it was just a real devastating moment. But I mean, the way we got past that was we reached back into our own network. I mean, similar to like the Kickstarter campaign, reaching into our own network to get the word out. We reached into our own network again to find people that perhaps had better connections within the footwear space. And it wasn't people that we necessarily knew personally. It'd be more someone within our network knew somebody, or maybe that person knew somebody. So by going back to our own people that we knew and trusted, we were able to find people that were better versed in the shoe space, that would be able to help us, like, one, find better manufacturing, but two, be able to find avenues to get in front of the right people to present the brand. And through that, over and over and over, trying to find the right person, we were able to get into a room to talk to the buyers at Nordstrom. And it wasn't like our network got us into Nordstrom. It was more they presented the opportunity that we could all of a sudden tell our story, and then to be able to partner with just amazing, amazing company.
Yeah, that is so awesome. I really sometimes the saying everything happens for a reason drives me crazy, but I do believe that everything works out the way that it should. And, experiencing that struggle in the beginning, those struggles just prepared you for that victory, that moment, where you're partnering with Nordstrom and it's a reality. Everything that you worked for to get to that point is just, it's like, all the blood, sweat, and tears, it's worth it.
So I love that you say that, because it almost makes you, because you're speaking the truth. I mean, every time we've had like this epic fail, like
Yeah.
on the other side of that epic fail was this epic victory, which makes you almost want to celebrate failure. But man, does failure stink.
Mm. It sucks sitting with it too. But it's all a part of it. It's like we appreciate things so much more when we have to go through uh those tough times. So,
Yep, very true.
well, what do you feel like kind of, I mean, I feel like this, I have you, we talked about this, but like, what sets you apart in the industry? What do you feel like sets you guys apart?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of different things that sets us apart. I mean, one thing is our shoes. Um, we've had so many customers that have had transformational experiences because of the product. Like literally, people have not been able to put their shoes on, and now they can. And that warms my heart tremendously because I experienced the same thing. Like there was no solution out there. And then I was able to, take back that independence through this shoe. And by having that independence, it wasn't just a matter like now I can put my shoes on again. It all of a sudden becomes this opportunity for something so much more. I mean, like not being able to put your shoes on, it's crazy. It's not just the shoes. It could be a preventer from being able to get outside to get your day going, to be able to do something more with yourself. So it all of a sudden becomes this empowering empowering situation where it's like, yes, it's an accessory, yes, it's like kind of fashion that you need to wear, but it just ends up being like this door opener for so much more. And i think I think that being able to provide that type of experience as a brand sets us apart. But I would also say that when you look at either adaptive footwear, like in the industry right now, typically what happens is it's kind of siloed. Like a brand will already be established, and then they've got this category which they would call adaptive. And our brand, it's like, yes, it has those functional characteristics, but all of our shoes have those characteristics. So our approach isn't necessarily, quote, like adaptive. It's more of a universal design. It's an inclusive brand where, yes, it was inspired by a disability that I had and had needed functionality that, like, I was required to have to be able to overcome my own challenge. But anybody can wear the shoes. I mean, my wife wears the shoes. My 6-year-old kid wears the shoes. I mean, he all of a sudden can. Anything we as parents can do to empower our kids to get out the door faster is always a good thing. So where I'm going at, what I'm really trying to say is, yes, the brand came from perhaps an adaptive space, but being that it's a universal design, it really is for the whole family. And I'm not really sure there's other brands out there that can really say the same thing.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I've looked at your website, and I think, what I love most about it is it's it's like, I don't know if you feel this way, but for example, with a spinal cord injury, when you get injured, everything that's given to you as far as mobility devices, it's not really flattering,
Mhm.
and your shoes, they they are, like they don't make, at least from my perspective, I don't feel like it's like you can fit in
Right.
with your shoes.
Well, I absolutely love that you say that. I mean, that really means a lot because when Darren and I first put this whole idea together way back when,
Mhm.
uh, we were having flashbacks of being on the playground growing up in elementary school where kids that had to wear something different, the other kids would remind them they're wearing something different and they just felt different all of a sudden. And that was the last thing that we wanted to do. We wanted to bring something to market where that narrative was completely reversed, where someone that has to wear something just because they have to, it'd be a scenario where all the other kids would then want to wear what that kid's wearing.
Mhm.
So instead of like this kid that has to wear something wants to wear what everybody else is wearing but can't. So, and it's the wild thing about it is like we've seen that narrative reverse many, many times with our product, and it's so heartwarming, and it really, I think, builds this very inclusive community. The more and more that we're able to grow, and as a community, we can do bigger things that are bigger than ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I I think that does set you apart, knowing that you've created something that is life changing for someone with a disability, because having a disability is already so challenging. There's especially with speaking, just there's all different kinds of disabilities, but you and I have a spinal cord injury, and obviously sustaining a spinal cord injury can be a devastating thing. So anything that makes the injury easier is so appreciated. It's the little things, right? It's the difference between having a caregiver put them on for you versus, oh, I can do this myself. It's like taking your power back. it's improving people's autonomy and quality of life. And I mean, that's huge. So,
It is. Yeah, I agree.
well, what are your long-term goals for your business?
Well, so I get that question a lot, and I think so when Darren and I first started the business, we really started it in the spirit of trying to add value. So, um, our like personal goal was to really try to make a difference, add value in people's world, and really kind of like, I don't know, like make a measurable difference in the world one foot at a time. That was kind of our little catchphrase.
I love it.
So as the business, in order for us to add value, I mean, you can't give what you don't have. So for us to add a ton of value, we need to be able to be a big business. And I say that not because I want to be a big business. I don't want to like necessarily own a big business, but again, like to add a lot of value, you need to be able to, we need to be much, much bigger, because we have had a lot of scenarios where customers have come to the brand that just have such a unique situation that our current line just hasn't been able to, you know, we haven't been able to pick up that particular customer just from one reason or another. I mean, so what we want to be able to do is be able to take on some very, very specific and very, very niche type scenarios, not as something that, would be expensive. Because oftentimes that super, super niche stuff ends up being like just terribly expensive. And oftentimes the person that needs that equipment or whatever, they're not really in a cash position to be able to pay for that super, super niche thing. Mm-hmm. So we'd love to be able to create like specific things for specific scenarios and not have it cost much. And those types of projects, unfortunately, are very expensive for us. But if we're a really, really big business, then we can actually take that stuff on and take it as a loss, but it's in the spirit of adding value. Mm-hmm. And, it'll make us all better for it. So I think for us to be really, really big, I don't really know what that looks like. I don't know if that's a matter of like latching on to like some like mega power, like a Converse or a Nike or something like that. But it has been really, really exciting because the business has grown tremendously. My first prototype, that was one pair of shoes, and now we have sold 2.5 million pairs of shoes. So we're well on our way. And it's going to be exciting when we finally are able to, latch onto that superpower later down the road.
Yeah, and you will. I know when you first started, you probably couldn't imagine being where you are today. So, and that's the beauty of the unknown, I think, is I don't know what's next, but I'm believing that it's going to be something good. No matter the challenges that we face, it's a reminder that there's always good things around the corner. Can't have the sunshine without the rain. So well, what would you say? I just have one more question for you. What would you say or is the most valuable piece of advice that you would give someone today wanting to start their own business?
Yeah, that's a really important one, especially when you're an entrepreneur. And it's funny because I didn't
in that direction.
Yeah, so I didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial family. So this Darren, my fellow co-founder, Darren's the one that really kind of taught me the ropes, and I absolutely got addicted. But I've learned a lot on this journey. And what I would say is, it's tough. I'll start by saying, like, own your own business, starting your own business. It's very, very difficult. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I will say it's difficult. Things don't happen as fast as you'd like. When I tell the story of our brand, it'll come off as being like this nice linear path of like growth and, successes, but it's anything but. It's an absolute roller coaster. There's ups, there's downs, there's curveballs all over the place. But the trick is you just need to stay in the game. You need to stay in the game, keep believing in yourself, keep leveraging your network opportunities, and I don't know, just stick with it because it does compound over time. Like just you may have 5 steps forward, 3 steps back, but you're still moving forward. And just over time, it just has a tendency to keep growing and growing. And I don't know, success is in your future. You just need to stick with it.
Yeah. It's like that saying goes, you know, the future belongs to those that believe in the beauty of their dreams. And I think there's a lot of determined people out there, but it's discipline. You know, anybody can be determined, but you have to be disciplined. And I think it's a lot harder to have discipline when you do have those step backs. It's easy to want to throw in the towel, but to remind yourself that, you know, no, it's worth it. You know, you just have to keep going. That's when you really see great things happen.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, I sure appreciate you coming on here. And for everybody that's watching, Billy's Instagram, Billy Footwear, is on here and the website. I hope that you all will check it out. I'm going to order me a pair of shoes on there. I've already looked at a couple that I like. And, you know, keep doing what you're doing because you're changing lives. And we need more of that out here. People changing people's lives for the better and not for the worse. So I appreciate everything.
Yeah,
So
thank you, Emily. It's a team effort for sure. And
absolutely.
I really appreciate this
Well,
opportunity.
I'll talk to you next time, Billy. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.